Sai Ram. Among the few devotees who have had the double privilege of coming early to Swami as well as documenting their experiences with Swami is a certain Mr. Bala Pattabhi. Now, Mr. Bala Pattabhi came to Swami in 1944 and he has documented his many experiences in the beautiful book titled Nectarine Leelas of Bhagawan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. One particular experience is very poignant in the message it gives us about the nature of faith. This happened in the 1940s when Swami would take groups of devotees to the banks of the Chitravati river, and on the sands there he would perform miracles galore. This particular day, among the several miracles that Swami did, was one in which Swami plunged his hand into the sands and pulled out a beautiful silver idol of Lord Ganesha. He gifted this to Bala Pattabhi's brother-in-law's father-in-law, and he told that elderly gentleman something in his ears. And then, looking at him, Swami said, "You understood?" Quite strictly. And the old gentleman nodded his head and he said, yes, he understood. After that Chitravati session was over, all the devotees and Swami returned back to the Pata Mandiram or the old Mandiram, and all the devotees were very keen and eager to know what was it that Swami had told this elderly gentleman. But that person kept his mum. He just did not speak anything, nor did he show that beautiful silver idol again to anybody else. A few days passed and it was time for this group to return back to Udumalpet. Incidentally, Mr. Bala Pattabhi hails from Udumalpet, a town in India, South India. So they took the bullock cart to Bukkapatnam, and from Bukkapatnam they took the bus to Penukonda. From Penukonda they caught the train and reached Bangalore, and they decided to spend the night there in an inn. The next morning, something happened which is very, very insightful, and it will definitely imbibe in us a very strong lesson about faith. In my undergraduate days in Brindavan, Whitefield in the city of Bangalore, I often wondered and pondered on this concept of faith. I felt that if at all Swami would confer on every person one miracle is enough. Automatically that person will have faith in God and faith in Swami as God. Why is it, Swami, that you don't grant a miracle to every devotee and every person who comes to you? It is so easy. After all, you say, miracles are my calling cards. Calling cards, visiting cards, you can print 1 million, right? You can give out, you can dole it out liberally to anybody and everybody. Why don't you do this? As this question pestered me and festered in me, Swami had his beautiful way of giving a response. I was part of the AVC, or the Audio Visual Communication Department, a self-reliance department in the Brindavan hostel. You see, self-reliance departments were made where every student does some service for the upkeep of the hostel. So whether it was the maintenance of the electrical facilities or the drainage facilities, the kitchen, everything was taken care by students. And I was in this self-reliance department that takes care of the mics and the sound system. So this AVC room, from where we would take all the mics and set up for the bhajans, was situated in the compound of the Trai Brindavan, that is Swami's residence in Brindavan. That day, when I was setting the mics back in the AVC room, I came across a book called Len Chimble's Dream. It looked interesting because there was a cartoon on the cover. I opened it randomly, and the page that it opened at random, random, was simply miraculous and phenomenal. It had Len, the protagonist of the book, asking God, why don't you do some miracle in order to show your existence to everyone? Everyone will then have faith in you. This whole book has been written in a format of a dream where Len is asking God questions and God is giving answers. And when I saw this question being asked, I was so thrilled because this is precisely my thought at that point in time. As I read on, God replies, yes, Len, I too would love to do that. Tell me, what miracle should I do? And Len says, do something phenomenal, oh God, like, turn the skies and the waters into some purple, pink, some color like that, unknown color, and people will notice, people will realize it's a miracle, and miracle will lead to faith. Already now, dear listener or viewer, you will know that such a miracle will not work, right? If I wake up in the morning and see a purple sky, will I feel, wow, it's a miracle of God? Huh? Or will I think, what is it happening today? Let me read, why does purple skies come? I will search on the internet for it, possibly, for some reason why it's happening. God replies to Len and says, no, Len, that will not work. That miracle will not work, because sometime back, somebody had told me once to make the skies and the waters blue. But today you have scientific explanations for why it is blue. Every moment I am doing miracles, Len, but you have scientific explanations for everything. And when you are not able to explain anything, you just call it an unsolved mystery, yet to be solved. You never acknowledge a miracle. This is so true, dear brothers and sisters. When I had been to California in the United States, we had been to a place called the Mystery Spot. This mystery spot is supposed to have mysterious gravitational forces. You can have a look at it yourself.
And for all, I'm going to take out my wonderful little level right here, place it in the center of the board, and we're going to see what the level tells us. All right. And you, sir, could you please come around and tell me, where is the bubble? Or do you?
I can tell you.
Oh, right. You can tell me. Where is it?
It's level. It's exactly in the middle.
That's right. The bubble is exactly in the middle. This is indeed a level board. Now, if this is a level board, what should happen when I place a ball on it?
It shouldn't roll.
Right? It should just stay there. It's a level board. Now, let's see what happens. And it actually begins to roll off of this end. That's kind of weird. Take my water from Costco, pour it into the groove of the board, and we're going to see where it flows.
Oh!
And that's right, it does indeed flow off of this end outside the cabin.
When you go there, you can actually feel a funny way in which gravity is acting on you. Gravity doesn't seem to be acting downwards. It seems to be acting at an angle. And when different people try to explain what it is, there are explanations that come up, that it's a optical illusion, that it is some kind of weird gravity acting, different explanations. But when I was there, we were a group of about 20 of us. Not even a single person, including myself, ever thought, wow, this is a miracle of God. And that is what God explains to Len. He tells Len that whatever miracle I do, Len, if you don't have faith, you will find an explanation for it, or at best, you will leave it as an unexplained scientific fact, or an undiscovered scientific truth. You will never acknowledge a miracle. Going back to the story of Bala Pattabhi's brother-in-law's father-in-law, what happens? The next morning, this elderly gentleman comes out and actually shows that silver idol of Ganesha to all the other members of the party from Udumalpet. And there and then, right before their eyes, that Ganesha idol vanishes. The elderly father-in-law is just shocked and he laments. He says, oh no, this is what Swami had told me. He had told me to worship this idol with milk and water and then partake those washings as prasadam and tirtham, but never to show this idol to anybody else it will vanish. And this is what has happened. Oh, how unfortunate I am. It was a lesson that he learnt in the hard way. Now, what is interesting is the reaction of different members in that group to this incident. Some of them considered this as a phenomenal miracle and said, oh my God, let us be very, very careful because Swami sees us every time and every place. He is everywhere. He is omnipresent. He's also omnipotent because he can make it vanish from here, and he's omniscient. He's all knowing. He knows what is going to happen. And therefore, this episode became an example of omnipresence, omniscience, and omnipotence of Swami for this group of devotees. For another group of devotees, they just lost total faith in Swami. They said, hey, look at this. This is such a cheap trick. That is why this Ganesha disappeared. It possibly was not authentic. Possibly we were under some hypnotic spell, or we were under an illusion or delusion. And that is why this vanished. For the first half, what they felt was the truth. For the second half, what they felt was the truth. So therefore, it is not an experience that confers faith. It is the faith that confers the experience. And that is precisely what God even tells Len in that book. He tells him, Len, at this particular point in time when there are people dying because they are unable to take a breath. We actually experienced this, right, during the COVID-19 pandemic. God continues to ask, don't you see that you are breathing? You are not even aware that you are breathing. You are doing it so normally, spontaneously and unconsciously. That is a miracle. When we have faith, every moment of our life is a miracle. And when we don't have faith, even something miraculous happens. We will think that there is some rationale behind it, there is an explanation behind it, or at best it's an unexplained scientific fact. Think of two friends having a conversation where one of them is saying, how can I get into the water? I don't know how to swim. The other is saying, if you don't get into the water, how will you learn to swim? That is how it is. While one may say, how can I have faith if I don't have an experience? The wise friend will say, how can you have an experience if you don't have faith? Definitely, it is faith that comes first. And if you ask me, how is it that we develop faith? Well, like how we develop everything else in life, we need to give it priority, we need to put in our efforts, we need to constantly remind ourselves that this is God. God is most powerful, God is most loving, and therefore I have faith, I believe. We have to reaffirm, affirm and reaffirm. And beyond all that, the best thing is to pray to Swami for that. Dear Swami, please grant us faith. Please grant us complete faith in you. Let us not get swayed by the arguments that come from outside and the arguments that come from within, from the mind. Dear Swami, please grant us faith, the absolute faith, where we shall be in union with you. Thank you. Jai Sai Ram.